Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Amplify Your Business. Today, we're going to be talking about men. That's right. This is a show for men. So all you women out there, don't tune out, though, because you have a man in your life, most likely. You know one, whether you have a brother, father, husband, boyfriend, whatever the case might be, or a partner in your business. You need to listen to this as well, because there's going to be some things that you can take away that might be able to help the men in your life as well. But for you men who are listening today, definitely listen up, because we're going to get the goods from my friend Dan Ferren from Ferren Coaching. Now, Dan specializes in life coaching for men. This is the first men-only life coach I've come across, and so I'm just fascinated to learn what he's going to be sharing with us here today. So welcome to the show, Dan. I really appreciate you taking the time today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Okay, so Dan, right off the hop, I'm just really curious about your decision to do a men-only coaching business.
Right. Well, that's really interesting. Since I graduated from college, just from my own personal experience, my own life experiences, I have had a desire to work with men. I started out, graduated from college with a degree in Christian ministries, and I was a youth pastor. And I went to the church board and said, I want to start a men's ministry. They shot me down, but even back then, I wanted to do that. And so here I am finally starting my own business, my own coaching business, and I get to make it what I wanted. And I wanted to coach men. That's what I want. That's on my heart. That's my passion. That's my purpose. And I get to do that. And I love it. I love what I do.
Excellent. And so in terms of the start of the business, this was about 3 years ago, if I'm correct, right? That you started venturing down the entrepreneurial journey? Okay. Yeah. So in those 3 years then, when you first, held up that shingle that, hey, I am a life coach for men, to where you're at today, has your practice changed much in that time?
It has. Yes, because as you go along, you start out with this idea about what you think you're going to work on and what area you want to focus on and how you want to help people. But then as you get into it and you begin to have conversations with men and you begin to interact with them, you soon discover, well, maybe I need to tweak it this way a little bit, or maybe I need to clarify it and narrow it this way a little bit. And you begin to discover actually the needs are a little more around this than that. And so, yes, it does sort of evolve over time.
Yeah, which is natural, I think, for any business, right? I think we all have to be somewhat flexible and let the market kind of start to lead us down the path where the greatest need is for whatever the service or product is.
Yeah, while still being true to your purpose for starting the business in the first place.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, because you don't want to migrate too far away from that. Otherwise, it's going to be inauthentic and you're going to have a real hard time finding success when you're not really focused on the why. And so that's something that before we hit the record button, we were talking a little bit about that, just some of the why and how you make sure that we're focused on that in the early days of your business. So walk us through that a little bit. Why did you start the business, and how have you been able to maintain that focus, I guess, through the first 3 years of your business?
Before I started life coaching, I was a part-time pastor at a church, and I reached a point where I was just unsatisfied. Things weren't moving, and I was just unsatisfied, and I knew, if I stay here, it's going to get ugly, because I wear my emotions right here, and people are going to notice something's off. And I began to think, well, maybe it's time for a change. And a friend suggested life coaching. Well, at that point, I wasn't even sure what that was. So I looked into it and thought, yeah, this feels right. This feels good. But I think with any business, life coaching or anything, you have to understand why you're doing it. And well, because I want to make money is a good reason, but it's really not why. What's the passion in your heart for what you're doing? Mm-hmm. You get up in the morning. Why do you spend the time and the money and the effort doing what you're doing? What is it that makes your heart tick with this business, with this thing? And like I said earlier, I've had a passion for working with men for decades now. And That's why I do it, because I believe that when a man gets it right, everybody wins.
Mm.
When a man is living his purpose and his passion and is living a fulfilling life, guess what? His spouse gets a happier husband. The kids get a better dad. The boss gets a better employee because he comes in generating ideas, and his coworkers like being around him because he's got energy and life. But everybody wins. And so not only am I working with that one client, but what really, really, really turns me on and makes me excited is knowing that when I help that one client, I am potentially touching the lives of thousands of people.
Mm.
That's influence. I
Yeah.
love it. So you
Influence, influence and impact, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's important really to know what that fire is inside. Why did you start this business? Why is this so important to you? Because that's what's going to get you up some mornings when you don't want to keep going.
Yeah.
Is knowing what is it about this that makes you feel fulfilled.
Yeah. So a question for you: when I, come across other life coaches and people that are in that counseling space, I always think you guys must have it all figured out, right? Like it's because I mean, this is the work that you're doing. So is that a false impression? Like, do you go through the same kind of struggles that the rest of us do, or is it just that you're on easy street, man?
Oh, no, 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 no. Absolutely. We do. I actually have two other coaches right now.
Yeah.
Working on different things. Coaches need coaches, counselors need counselors. In my particular work, it is very cerebral. It is very much in the mind. And so we are constantly evaluating ourselves and looking at ourselves and looking at our blind spots and looking at how we can grow and be better. And we always learn new things and begin to apply it to ourselves and say, oh, that's why I'm like this. I need somebody to help me with this. And so, yes, we do grow and we are constantly adapting and changing. And I think for any entrepreneur, it's important to remember that you don't know everything. You may have gotten the business degree and you may have gotten the money and you may have started the business, but there are going to be many things along the way that you don't know. And if you go into it with an open mind that says, I need somebody to help me through this, somebody that's a little wiser and smarter, somebody that can kind of help challenge my thinking, then you're going to be a lot better off. Your business will be flexible and be able to flow with life rather than rigid. And when things are rigid and life gets rough, that's when the bolts get loose and things don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really good analogy because that's the truth of it, right? It's the stress points. When you're under the greatest stress, that's when things start to break. And so if you don't have the tools, the resources, the ability to make it through some of that, think through it, work through some of those issues, yeah, you're going to run into some problems.
Yeah. A lot of times it's just mental flexibility, willing to say, I don't have the answer and I need help.
Yeah, yeah, completely. Now, a question for you, because I'd imagine you probably get asked this from time to time. It's how do you differ in your approach or the style or what me as a man would get from your coaching versus somebody who is not focused just on coaching men? Is there much in the way that like how do you distinguish yourself between those who coach any gender versus those who coach just men like yourself?
Ooh, I love this question. Well, of course, there are coaches out there for absolutely everything. I mean, I once knew a lady, she was from France, and her niche was to work with mothers returning to work after maternity leave.
Mm.
I mean, specific. But my approach is first of all, when a man comes to me and works with me, I like to focus. My focus is on helping them live a more fulfilling life, and so maybe that means they need confidence, and we can work on how to develop confidence. Maybe that means they just aren't sure what they want to do with themselves, and so I'll say, all right, well, let's start with your values. What do you need in your life to feel fulfilled? Or maybe they like they're overwhelmed. I don't have any margin. I can't pursue anything because I'm so busy. Okay, well, let's look at how you could create some margin and things of that nature. But see, when a person comes to me as a coach as opposed to someone else, they're getting me. They're not just getting my coaching skill and the training that I've had, but they're getting all of my life experience. They're getting all of me and all of the books I've read and the experiences I've had and the conversations I've had. I bring that to the table. And my own personal unique offering is what really makes it special. And so there's sort of a chemistry between the coach and the client.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you obviously being a male have walked in the shoes, in a man's shoes, and so you're bringing that to the table, and really drawing upon that as well, I guess, right?
Right.
So now, I'd imagine, and this is, potentially getting into some controversial areas here, but I'm just going to throw it out there right now because I am curious if you bump into this a bit in your practice, where there has been a little bit of, I'm not going to say male bashing, but a lot of discussion around the privilege that maybe a white male, both of us are white males, have in society today. This tends to be something that is being talked about a little bit more all the time. And so, do you bump into that in your practice because, well, you're a white male who's coaching men only? Is there some criticism that's heaped on as that's just what men need, right?
Really interesting. I'm on social media and I'll put something out there to new connections and things, and once in a while there will be even a man who will say, well, I feel like this is appropriate for women too. Well, yeah, it is. But it just so happens that this is my business and my business is for men. I'm not exclusive. I'm not saying women can't have this. It's not right for them. It's just, I want to work with men.
Yeah.
I had somebody else say, well, that sounds, anytime I hear anything about community and specifically a group of white men, it makes me suspicious. I'm like, oh boy, okay, here we go. So yeah, no, I'm not misogynistic and I'm not, white supremacist and everything. It's just, this is who I am and this is what I want to work on. And this is my business. It's my business. So I get to make it what I want it.
Yeah.
But our culture has, I think men over the past, 10 years have kind of taken a back seat and kind of said, oh, we better be careful or we're going to get judged or we're going to get, I don't know, however you want to say it. But we are still human beings and we do still have value and we do still have lives to live. So if someone doesn't like that I'm just working with men, they don't have to like it. It's my business.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's one of the things when you're one of the appeals of being an entrepreneur, right? Is we get to set the rules as to how we're gonna operate and so on. Yeah. So I'm curious as well, from the perspective of coaching entrepreneurs, which is largely our audience, versus non-entrepreneurs. Is there much in the way of a difference there, a different approach or methodology, or is it basically the same?
There is a little bit of a difference. So every client that comes to me has their own specific goal. And so when I have worked with entrepreneurs, and so they come to me and they say, I want my business to grow, or I want to be able to hire an administrator in so many months to help me, but I know that I am the roadblock. I don't have organizational skills and I'm struggling. Okay, so what can we do then to help you develop those skills and put things in place so that you can get to there, if that's your goal? So they each have their own specific need, their own specific goal in mind. And it is different than working with a guy that says, I would like to do something different. I just don't know what it is. Okay. So I can look at that in a different way than I do the entrepreneur.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would think that over the 3 years working with, countless men, there must have been some commonality in some of the challenges that men are facing. Am I correct in assuming that? And if so, what are some of the big issues that you tend to be working with most men on?
Believe it or not, self-confidence,
Mm-hmm.
believing in themselves, their own value and worth, um, to step out and do the things that others may look at and scratch their head and go, "Why are you doing that?"
Yeah.
Yeah, that tends to be a big one. That tends to be a big one. Um, I have a client that was in a career is in a career that he does not like, but he's good at it and it makes good money. He wants to be a screenwriter, and these two things that he's doing are as different as day and night.
Hmm.
And he was just, I just don't know how to do it. I don't know what to do, and there's going to be a lot of pushback, and I'm not sure. And so working on that self-confidence and belief, and this is what you want. This is a value. You want to be a storyteller, and helping him see that and understand that. He signed up for film school,
Hmm.
and he's in film school now. That's just so exciting to me because this guy is now on a path to fulfillment. Whereas before, he's like, I can't see myself working here another 6 months.
Yeah.
So yeah, because we tell ourselves stories. I can't do this. People are going to judge me. I don't have the strength, or I don't have the capability, or I don't know how. And we tell ourselves stories that keep us down. And we have to identify those stories and realize where they come from, and realize they're just stories. I can retell them.
Yeah.
They don't anymore. So that seems to be a big one, is even, a lot of men that may look confident and secure in their job and everything. Underneath, there's this insecurity. I'm not so sure.
Yeah. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize. I think even myself as a male don't necessarily appreciate that insecurity that is inherent in most other men. I mean, I recognize it in myself for sure at times. But then I kind of isolate it to it's just me, maybe, right? Because everybody else seems like they are pretty secure in themselves. And I think there's also that gender stereotype that is at play a little bit too, where it's that, strong, confident male that we sometimes have to portray, or feel that we have to portray, I guess is more appropriate. In reality, we are just like any other gender or anybody else, where there's a lot of things at play there. The negative self-talk, the spirals that we can get into around anxiety and depression and so on as well. But then also this trap that we maybe put ourselves into, where we feel that we have to be something that we just aren't maybe natural that way, because we're trying to conform to a stereotype. Is that what you are referencing there a bit?
Yeah, definitely. And you touched on something, that we're trying to be something that we're not. We have to look, present a certain way, or be a certain way. Listen, if you want to be fulfilled in life, if you want to have some real joy in life, learn to be authentic.
Yeah.
Learn to be authentic. And as men, we need other men in our lives that can speak to us beyond how was the football game.
Yeah.
That can speak into our lives and say, dude, what are you doing? How's your, why are you doing that? No, I don't think that's a good idea, man. Or what are you struggling with? Or we need to be challenged like that. And the more authentic that we can be with others, especially other men, the better off we're going to be.
Yeah. Is that a nurture versus nature thing? Like, what's at play there, in your opinion, anyway, having worked with all these men? Is it something where, again, it's a stereotype, it's nurtured into us, or is there naturally something within us that we just keep it on a superficial level, talking about the football game last night?
I think that's a good question. I think because there are a number of men out there who the idea of needing other men in close relationship with them that they can share with and be open and vulnerable with never crosses their mind, and they're completely fine with that. But then I know other men out there who desperately want that and sometimes can't find it or look for it intentionally and build it into their lives because they know they need it.
Yeah.
And so I think culture just kind of naturally makes it that way. You have to be intentional. It's not going to happen on its own. And I'm not sure, I think because we're busy, because of culture, because of all sorts of things, but you have to be intentional about it. It won't happen on its own.
So do you think, like, having come through a couple of years of COVID here, and mental health has been a real big topic. There's a lot more people talking about the impacts of COVID on people's mental health and just the isolation and the uncertainty, anxiety, and everything else. It seems like there's just a lot more conversations being had there. Do you think that this is going to open that door up more for men to kind of raise their hand and say, yeah, like I could use a little support here?
Boy, I sure hope so.
Yeah.
I sure hope so because I have talked to so many men who have or either are dealing with depression, just long-term anxiety, just all sorts of mental health kind of stuff that are common because we're human, but we're supposed to be strong and we can't let it be seen. And and so we're just wrestling with it. I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope it does open that door a lot for people to say, you know what? I don't know how to get where I want to go and I need some help.
Yeah. Do you have any tips for entrepreneurs, or I mean men in general as well, I guess, just around, like, when you first start working with them, how do you identify or help them identify what would be fulfilling for them? Because I think that's also a big challenge, is it not? Where sometimes it's just we know we're discontent. We know that there's a misalignment, but we just can't identify what the alternative might be or identify how to overcome that. So do you have any tips on how people can work towards that?
Yes. So first of all, there is an opportunity in every situation.
Yeah.
And to illustrate that, I have a friend who was recently offered early retirement from his pharmaceutical company, and he's not old. I'm 50 and he's younger than me, and he took it. And a guy could get really down about that, discouraged. No, great. Now what am I going to? No, it's an opportunity. He gets
Yeah.
to think, what do I get to do?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so where I would start is, first of all, this is an opportunity for growth and for change and for good things. But I would also challenge a person to look at their values, not values right, wrong, but values as in, what do you value in life? What's
Mm-hmm.
important? What needs to be present in your life for it to be fulfilling? That could be connection with other people. That could be nature. That could be performing music. That could be all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And when you get a list of values, then you can look, okay, how can I honor these values in my daily life?
Hmm.
What can I do that will honor these values? Because this is the core of who I am. What can I do that will honor those values? And is there a career in that? Another way is to look back over your life and say, what have I done and where have I felt the most fulfilled? And you will begin to see a pattern in all of the jobs you've had and all the careers that you've had and all of the times that you felt most fulfilled. You will begin to see a pattern that points out what you're made for, what your purpose is.
Yeah.
And so, for example, I started out as a youth pastor and I've been a pastor. That's helping people live a more fulfilling life spiritually. I was a mental health counselor, both inpatient and outpatient. That's helping people live a more fulfilling life mentally and emotionally. Now, guess what? I'm helping men live a more fulfilling life.
Yeah.
It's the same thing throughout my life. It's just been in different forms. And so look at your values, look across your life and see the similarities, see the high points and find the connector points. That's kind of where I would start.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great advice. And I think, like, once you identify that, then it's about action, intentional action then afterwards, right?
Yes, because there isn't an action point at the end of a coaching session. It's not a coaching session. It's just a nice conversation.
Yeah.
So there's always action. What are you going to do this week to move the dial and get you a little closer to your goal? What kind of accountability do you need? What 2 or 3 things are you going to work on? There's absolutely got to be action.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and I imagine this is the role, or one of the roles, I shouldn't make it a singular role, but one of the important roles that you bring to the table as a coach is to infuse that accountability, because I think that's the other area that, right, where things kind of start to fall down, is that we understand maybe now what we want to do or the common value. We know that we have to act, and we maybe are starting to think through what that plan's going to be. But it's the execution. And if we don't have accountability, it's really tough to motivate yourself to continue executing, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing about coaching is we're not just going to come up with a step and then not know how they're going to do it. The thing is about coaching is I'm not telling them what to do. I'm not giving them any answers. I'm just asking the right questions.
Yeah.
I ask questions that they've not probably been asked before. I challenge them on their thinking. I point out stories they're telling themselves. And so when it comes to the action item, what are you going to do? And they get to decide from what we've talked about and what they've discovered about themselves. This is what I'm going to do, and I know how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Now, just to pivot a little bit to something that we were talking about before we hit the record button, because I want to squeeze this in before the end of the time that we have here today, and that is around value, but not the values per se, but I'm talking about the value that one assigns to themselves when they are in business, trying to figure out the value of their service. And so pricing essentially is where I'm going at with this. And you and I were having a little bit of a conversation before we hit the record button about that, and the challenge that one has in that. And I think you said that you had a lesson kind of in there too, through your entrepreneurial journey, and maybe some of the other entrepreneurs that you've been working with, as to trying to sort through that to identify really what pricing or what value service-based businesses in particular need to be, placing on their services. So any advice there that you want to share today?
Yes. A lot of entrepreneurs will struggle with charging appropriate fees for their services. And that is a reflection of their belief about themselves, not the quality of their work. They could be the best at what they're doing, but undercharge for it because they don't believe that they're worth it. I had to work on that myself, to change my fees and to raise my fees and to get what I deserve, what I'm worth. Because as I said earlier, you're not just getting my coaching, you're getting me and my time and my knowledge and everything. And so I had to do some work and really, really uncover my worth and my value and believe in myself. I know an entrepreneur that's been at their job for probably 20 years, really, really, really good at it, consistently undersells themselves.
Yeah.
Could be living a much better, easier life, but consistently undersells themselves because they don't believe in their worth. And that's a big thing for entrepreneurs. Yeah, you may have to prove yourself if you're the new kid on the block, but you don't want to get all the business simply because you're always the cheapest. You're going to be working yourself to death.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's such an interesting collision of your experience in helping people navigate through that confidence part, navigate through their self-talk, self-doubt, and everything else, and then into the nuts and bolts of entrepreneurship and pricing properly.
Right.
It's a really interesting collision of your experiences right there, and that summed up in that statement.
It is. I mean, my prices, when I tell people what my price is, some people are like, oh my. Well, no, oh my, that's what it is, because that's what I'm worth. You want somebody cheaper, you may not get as much out of it. You want somebody more expensive, let me tell you, I can find him for you.
Yeah.
but doing what you love, bringing your skill and knowledge to the table is worth it. It's just worth it.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
have to yourself.
Yeah. Knowing your value, and the better aligned you are with the values that you're bringing to the table and the confidence that you have within your ability to deliver on that, right? And the more alignment you have with your purpose and everything else, that all just naturally gives you the confidence to go, this is a fair price for what I'm bringing to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And the money conversation, you have to let go of the expectation. You have to let go of the outcome.
Yeah.
Say, oh, if you go into that saying, I need this money to pay my bills this week, forget it. It's going to fall apart. But if you can release your expectation of the outcome and just say, this is what it is, that confidence builds within you. And if this person doesn't take it, there'll be someone else who will.
Yeah. 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 It all comes down to that confidence. Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much, Dan. We've run out of time now today, so we can't go any deeper into some of these conversations. But if somebody did want to reach out to you and explore working with you and getting your assistance and all your knowledge, how would they reach you then? What's the best way?
I have a website, ferrencoaching.com. I am also on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook at Dan Ferren.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for sharing all your wisdom with us today. And for those of you who are listening and you like this episode, if you want to check out the archives, head over to amplifyyourbusiness.ca. And we are available also on all of the major platforms for podcasting. So just go to your favorite one and search Amplify Your Business and you shall find us. And thanks again, Dan. Really appreciate all the advice and insights. And for everybody else out there today, please have a prosperous day and we'll catch you in the next episode.